welcome back everybody. And I'd like to hand over to Kevin to start the next session. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Jeanette. Hello and welcome back to the festival, everyone. I hope many of you had the opportunity to check out the Tech Lab sponsored by Chili Publish. Next up, we have Adrian Allnut, Director of Design and Research Operations at LinkedIn. And Adrian's got an amazing topic to talk about. It's called HappinessOps, enabling teams to be more effective and happy at work. Just a quick friendly reminder, make sure to post your questions for Adrian in the Q&A section. And also, if you haven't downloaded the vendor passport, please do so. It'll be your entry pass to win some of those prizes. So now over to you, Adrian.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Hi, everyone. You know that feeling when you walk into your first official one-on-one with your new boss at your new job, ready to show him that they made the best possible choice in hiring you? That day, I walked into a conference room called Motley Crue. I looked around the walls full of user flows, design inspiration, scribbles on the whiteboard. I opened up my Excel sheet and started preemptively patting myself on the back for what in my mind was going to blow him away. I read off each item on my list. His expressions unveiled that he was not quite as pumped as I was, but I kept going. He interrupted me and said, "I'm going to stop you right there. I don't need a written list of every task that you're working on with a red, yellow, green status. It doesn't really matter. This is a time for you to surface things that you need help with. How can I help you unblock? Think about different approaches to problems. Get perspective that will help you make the right calls. What needs do you have that I can help you be more successful in?" I honestly was shocked. I was used to proving myself through the quantity of the projects I was working on and being able to communicate that as my value. This is the time when I realized that not only was I terrified that no one was going to know what I was working on if I didn't write them down or didn't share them, but most importantly, that listening to your employees' needs, where they are experiencing problems, where they are stuck, where they may be lacking motivation, could uncover all I needed to do my job. I was hired on by the design org to make it more effective. It wasn't about me. It was about them. It was about how I can unlock the potential of an organization at scale. Okay, let's talk about why we are here. We are here together because we all fundamentally believe that the operations practice is valuable, maybe even essential to your business. Operations has been around in different forms for many, many years, with engineering, IT, business, product, HR, marketing, and so on. Let's start by thinking, what is operations management? The Operations Academy defines operations management as an area of management concerned with designing and controlling the process of production. Now, when we transcribe this definition into a statement that reflects working with a creative environment alongside designers, researchers, writers, artists, and so on, we get something like this. Now, you may be thinking, hey, this is the same. It is. Now, I personally have an aversion to the verb controlling, so I'm going to cross this off and change this to influencing. So why is this definition unchanged when we adapt to creative operations? I believe that all operations practices have the same roots, with differences that flex to the needs of different functions and organizations. Ultimately, ops is about making people feel confident, making people happy, whatever their craft may be. I've been leading the ever-changing design and research operations team at LinkedIn with the design organization for the past 6+ years. Our team has formed and normed, then reformed and renormed many, many times due to changes internally and changes in the needs of the scaling org. But mostly the LinkedIn design and research operations team has been evolving by keeping track of what's going on in the design ops and research ops communities and ensuring that we're aligning to surfacing norms. I started at LinkedIn as a program manager, hired on to run our design all hands and recognition programs and to evaluate how design leadership was reviewing and evaluating the work before it's launched, and a list of many, many things that seem to always get deprioritized as other people's non-dedicated roles. When I started, I oversaw one producer in our marketing and brand design group and a couple of technical program managers. Early thereafter, We moved our marketing design and web development groups out of the design department into marketing and engineering, respectively. Over the next few years, I grew the operations team as conditions came my way. This is to say that I didn't always plan to grow the team, but instead the org surfaced and revealed gaps along the way. One of the first areas we filled was creating and maintaining programs for our onboarding and culture. And then we quickly discovered a need to have a project manager run a large consumer web and mobile redesign. Next, we hired a program manager to embed with building our first design system and to work on how we changed our collaboration between product design and our design system, a big change. In the next stage of our operations team evolution, we hired program managers to embed within our product design teams. And we created a centralized research operations team, which is holding down the foundations of user research. And most recently, we have dedicated program managers focused on some of our most important company values: trust, accessibility, and equity within our products. Our team at LinkedIn has grown from 2 to 18 people in the last 6+ years. As the team has scaled, we've centered around our value proposition we believe in, which is to make people more effective and happy. I know there may be a lot of different professionals here today from different types of creative organizations and backgrounds. The LinkedIn operations team is centralized within our design organization, working side by side with our product designers, user researchers, UX writers, and of course, working closely with our key partners and collaborators within product management and engineering. In this talk, when I refer to they, I'm referring to our people of our design org, our designers, researchers, and writers. I'm referring to the role that ops plays with these creative professionals. To understand how ops can make an impact with our people, we need to think about how we can make them feel confident in what they're doing, how they're doing it, and most importantly, why they're doing it. So how do we create confidence? I like to start by thinking about creating safety. Do they feel safety in their space, with their team, and with their partners? Safety to speak up and offer critique, advocate for what they believe is right for the user. Do they have paths and workflows to help them navigate the product development cycle and their cross-functional relationships? Do they have the tools they need and the tech they need to be successful and to do their job? This is an essential start, but what else can we do to make sure that the people are happy in their role and at our company? We can provide a creative community to connect with each other, bounce ideas off of, and form relationships that stretch out of their day-to-day projects. We can create ways to inspire through specialized speakers, events, and showcasing how their work has made an impact with our members and with our customers. We can provide opportunities to grow through business acumen and skill development classes, mentorship, and more. Now, when you break apart the pillars of a design organization, or really any organization, I see this made up as the process, the people, and the work. And when we go back to our definition from the Operations Academy, defined as an area of management with designing and influencing the process of production, I believe we can now translate that to an area of management that designs and influences the process for the people to do their best work. We as operations professionals are responsible for creating effective processes and community, leading to people being happy in their space and to do better work. In fact, a study that many of you have probably heard about from 2015 shared that happy employees are 20% more productive than unhappy employees. How cool is that? And better work is better for the business. So if people are happy, they will stay longer, produce better work, attract great talent, and ultimately create better products and better business. So how do you evaluate what your operations team should work on to make a big impact? And when I say team, that may be a team, or it may be just you, or maybe it's someone who doesn't even have this title, but is passionate about this space. How can you ensure that you're working on how can you ensure what you are working on is working towards a vision of making people feel confident and happy through effective processes? Today, I'd like to share that a framework that our operations team uses at LinkedIn to assess the work that we work on. With limited resources and to avoid the pressure of doing all of the things, I found that having set objectives and strategies to achieve our objectives can help with planning our priorities and also help anchor our conversations with our partners. When you have these set, don't forget to share them and make sure that they are available as part of your team's charter. Step 1, evaluate the goal or evaluate the task, project, or program that you have on your list or is being asked of you. If there's no goal for these, take that as your first step to determine and align on with your stakeholders. Most of our LinkedIn operations work, team work, spurs from a couple of different areas. It can either spur from sentiment and interviews that we've done with our creative professionals on their needs or their gaps or issues they're experiencing with their teams. It could be our own observations as we've looked at the parts of the organization and the system as a whole. Or it could be agreed upon initiatives with our leadership team. Or finally, maybe it's design ops industry learnings that have surfaced from the community and things that we want to try within our own team. So for example, say the head of design wants you to train all new hires by week 2 of their start date. You might first evaluate this goal and why it's important. You'd next apply the goal. So in this case, getting the employees trained quickly, and identify what ops objective does this solve for. Does it provide predictability, remove friction, enable focus, or inspire growth? In this case, training as a priority in onboarding the employee would remove friction and enable focus, perhaps allowing the employee to contribute to the product roadmaps faster. If the goal of the ask cannot be aligned with one or more of these things, you probably shouldn't be working on it. Step 2. Next, we look at our ops strategies to help us organize how we achieve our objectives. Our team breaks down our strategies into the following areas: process collaboration and workflow design, knowledge management, planning and resource management, project management, communication strategy, tools, vendors, and technology, learning and skill development, and onboarding and community. To wrap up our new hire example we've been walking through, our strategy would be focused on building out our onboarding program to meet this training SLA through a new tool education process, getting our new hires up and running and reducing the time to begin contributing. You might be thinking, many projects an ops team may work on may fall into multiple strategies, and I think that's okay. Organizing your work will help others understand how you deploy value within your org. Next, I'm going to dig into each area a little bit further and provide some examples on what we've done. Process collaboration and workflow design. This is ownership over how individuals and teams are working through defined and agreed upon shared processes, collaboration methods, and workflows. And an operations team should also regularly assess these workflows and, if necessary, refine and continue to document this through knowledge management for improved efficiency. A lot of our team's focus is in this area. We are creating templates like briefs, PRDs, research requests. How can we standardize these across multiple teams or with our cross-functional partners? We've created engagement models. So these are things like, how does product management interact with us? What types of requirements do we need to start to fund something from the design end? One thing also we're working on is ensuring that business and user value are identified and agreed upon before design work begins. And so this seems like an easy process, but it's something that we've continued to work on with various teams and to get going so that we can all have a shared understanding before we get the work going. Another cool thing that our team has led is leading something we're calling prospective hindsights. This is kind of like a post-mortem, but it's before a project starts and allows you to imagine with your cross-functional team or cross-project team what success might look like and what might hinder that success. And it's a great way to bond with your cross-functional team and start to identify some of those things that might be hiccups along the way before the project even starts. Other examples we've done in this area are retrospectives, form creation, storing and sharing our work, like design files. That's a huge thing for our design team, is where are they storing their files? Are they accessible? Can they be found? What are final versions, etc. We also spend a lot of time in our critique and review structure. So what does it look like to review our work at an organizational level with our VP? What does it look like to review the work with our horizontal experts in accessibility, in legal, in research, and so on. And then we spent a lot of work on our research side, defining things like participant recruitment, how to set up a study, and methodologies as well. The next area is knowledge management. So this is also extremely important for your organization and something that your operations team can play a big role in. Systematic management of the org's or functional knowledge of the purpose of creating value. So documentation systems that sustain and enhance storage, sharing, refinement, and creation of knowledge. So some of these things I touched on in the previous section, like best practices, how-tos, toolkits, playbooks, you name it. A huge focus for our team is documenting our successes. What has worked well for other teams, and how can we scale that to the rest of our organization? Our teams are already doing so much and learning so much, without the help of us. So how can we grab onto those and make sure that we educate and teach others about what's working well? And it's a great way to reduce redundancy as well. Another example of knowledge management that we're working on is insights management with our research team. We've been dying for this, I think, since I started at LinkedIn for at least the last 8 years. It's a huge undertaking and provides such an incredible value to our organization and across the company. It has the potential to make a huge impact in how we plan and how we innovate on our products. Unfortunately, this project for our operations team continues to be deprioritized as other urgent things come up. However, I'm really excited and hope that we take this on soon. And finally, something as simple as taking action items and capturing and documenting decisions can also be considered knowledge management, and something that you can dedicate to an operations team, or at least identify as important and make sure that you have this person in your meetings or on your project team. The next area is planning and resource management. This is the efficient and effective development of an organization's resources. This could be people, skills, time, budget, tools, etc., and where and when they are needed. Our ops team is working on better capacity planning during our planning process. How can we better protect our designers and researchers from being overloaded? How do meetings in the run of the business activities interrupt the capacity they have for heads downtime and exploration? You should also regularly assess and monitor unplanned resourcing changes throughout the quarter. And for our team, there's so much work left to do in optimizing our product planning processes. Ops can also help identify and escalate burnout or availability and play a big role in headcount asks as well. Finally, operations is often involved in finance. So working closely with your finance partner for your organization for things like budgeting for contractors and the management of research incentives as well. The next area, which I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with, is project management. Our team will dig deep into project management for primarily high visibility or projects that are highly collaborative across product verticals. These projects prove to be the hardest for effective collaboration and communication, and we found are the most valuable ways that we can add value as project managers. So examples of things that we do for project management at LinkedIn include things like planning and mapping out deadlines, setting clear expectations for what the team can accomplish and saying no when necessary, tracking and managing the work, setting up Slack channels as a central place for communication, for project communication, defining project roles and responsibilities from the beginning. Maybe that's a rapid action item follow-up and decision-making in meetings, debriefs, and helping identify escalations when the project is at a standstill or there are blockers. The next area is communication strategy. This is a process and tactics that enable the exchange of information and instruction in order to enable the organization to function effectively. In other words, the right info with the right audience at the right time. Examples of this for our team include a weekly status report that rolls up all the important information that we want to communicate out to our R&D organization from the week. We also do a lot of product newsletters. We have a newsletter about inclusive design. We do participant scheduling reports, sharing out of new programs or new processes, Determining the right time for a designer or research to share their work. This is often a common question that we can help consult on. So if a designer is working on a project, they're unsure when and how and who to share their work with, we can help identify what that looks like for that designer and help them along the way. We do some things like team and project branding. So we have a lot of fun with making our teams feel have a lot of community and what is our own goals within those teams. And reminders. So reminders. This is a common mantra for our team. We're constantly nudging people, reminding people, helping people with deadlines, where to find things, wayfinding, all of that. The next one in tools, vendors, and technology. This is a little bit self-explanatory, but ensuring your organization and ensuring the governance of what tools you want your organization to use and for what. You should also be regularly assessing these as necessary along the way. We also often, as an operations team, own the supplier relationship and management as well. Examples for us include managing the end-to-end supplier approval and procurement, creation of documentation, so how to use the tool, use cases, common questions, and where to reach out to for more help. We also often onboard the tool to our organization and come up with a plan and training for this tool. An example of something we did recently was switch from Sketch to Figma for our design organization. And our operations team played a huge role in determining what this looked like, actually the onboarding procurement of the tool and the education process we wanted to run with our design organization to make this switch. For technology specifically, our operation team owns the equipment and processes needed to conduct remote research studies. Everything from the VC tool and recording to how we edit the sessions. And when we were in the office, we also own the in-person research lab spaces. The next category is learning and skill development. This is the development of programs and initiatives that grow our team, resulting in higher engagement, employee retention, and greater efficiency. At LinkedIn, we've created some really cool ways to approach this category. We've created a program called Design University. This program provides optional and sometimes required classes to learn about topics related to their job. We also created a program called Maker Hour. This program is built on the amazing, talented folks we already have in our organization, where they can sign up to teach a class. Some of the classes we've had have been stop motion, how to arrange floral arrangements, baking cookies, and painting portraits. So it's also a fun creative outlet that we've created for the team. We've also offered additional learning courses and classes that we brought from our company-wide L&D program. We've brought in inspirational and talented industry speakers, specialized tool training, and allowed our team to take advantage of a lot of great conferences offered in the UX industry. And finally, onboarding and community. This is the development of programs and initiatives that lead to a reduction of successful employee ramp-up time and time to effectively contribute. It's also where we can increase happiness, belonging, and inclusion within the organization. Some examples of what you could do here are creating 30, 60, 90-day programs for onboarding, orientation, which in our case, in our organization, we run quarterly, welcome gifts, developing team and organizational norms. This I wanted to call out because we did this recently for our organization when we went fully remote, and it was very valuable to write on paper and have the same source of truth, which was communicating things like communication hours. So trying not to send emails on the weekends or respond to emails on the weekend, or avoiding sending emails at night, things like that. And so we wrote those down, we shared them out to our org, and it's been a way that managers can help enforce a healthy balance while we're working at home. Other things that you can do in this area are offsites, recognition, how you recognize employees for the great work they're doing, and external event management. So I know that was a lot to walk through, a lot of listening to me walking through those categories, but it just shows how much an operations team can take on to improve the effectiveness of an organization. I called out just some examples for each area, but each area is intentionally generalized enough so that you can apply these to any craft. So product design, visual design, design systems, user research, writing, and more. Next, I'm going to walk through a couple of quick examples. So how can you evaluate the objective and the strategies? So for example, if you wanted to create a vendor bank for user researchers, or say you wanted to create a resource for approved prototyping tools for product designers, this would be considered knowledge management while removing friction. Next, if you wanted to bring teams offsite, or in this case, virtually during our pandemic for team bonding, you might consider this bringing functional project teams closer together, which might be inspiring growth in the category of community. And finally, maybe you want to optimize a cross-functional planning process for content strategy or writing requests, or evolve a line of business design planning process. I would consider this providing predictability with process collaboration and workflow design and resource management. And hey, it also might be removing friction as well. So ultimately, ops is about making people feel confident through effective processes and creating an environment where people can feel confident, thrive, connect, and grow, whatever their craft may be. By using the creative operations framework I introduced with you today, you can evaluate whether that next project, task, or program aligns to your objective as an operations team, and then determine the right strategy to get it done. You'll be able to educate the value of operations and what it brings to your organization, and start to speak the same language with your boss or with your partners. There may be different tactics, methods, and paths within each strategy to achieve the same objectives, but I believe all ops practices have the same roots. When I think back to my first one-on-one I started with this role at LinkedIn, I hope that my aha moment has allowed me to better serve our organization. I hope that in some way I've enabled each person on my team to also learn the satisfaction and pride in the work they do for our people. If people are happy, they will stay longer, produce better work, attract great talent, and ultimately create better products and better business. AKA HappinessOps. So thank you very much for allowing me to share with you today. I'd like to invite you to continue the conversation by asking how you think the ops practice contributes to the happiness of your employees. I'd love to hear from you on Twitter or LinkedIn with the hashtag HappinessOps. And you can connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Adrian. Great presentation. I think it resonated really well with a lot of the attendees. I see some notes in the chat just about, they love that kind of framework for leadership style. We only have a few minutes, but I'd love to just get a couple questions to you if that's okay.
Sure.
First one in from Michael. He says, do you set ownership governance for each process or project so that only one team is accountable or responsible for modifying? And then how do you keep other teams from trying to make changes without approval?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have that solved. That's something that we continue to work on. And it's really a trade-off. We make trade-off decisions on what we believe we want to centralize and standardize across the organization process-wise. And for those things, it is hard to keep track because we have a lot of product verticals. We have a lot of teams that may evolve. And we try to actually allow for some of that flexibility. So why we say governance, it may be governance over using Airtable as a tool to track our design work and status. And we might say, hey, that's the one tool we want you to use. As long as people are using that tool, if they want to modify how they use that tool, we allow for some flexibility. So I think that answers some of your question, but
Yeah.
Overall, we don't have that solved. It's really tough to do that overall.
And that's okay. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, moving along. How do you approach situations where process improvements make people feel threatened? So an example would be a designer that's comfortable manually resizing pictures. The new DAM tool that they put in does it automatically. In the past, they've had hesitations to adopt because of these type of situations.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's common change management and how you get a larger team or individuals to adopt something new or a different way, different behavior, or different behavior working. And we come across this all the time. Often it's the employees that have been at your company for quite a while and they're used to one way of doing things and comfortable with that. And so I think we start often at like a high level approach with education, and then it's all about listening. So I feel like if people feel heard, if you talk one-on-one with that individual and understand what are their pain points and why are they not comfortable moving to a certain new process or new way of doing things. I think it's goes a long way if they feel heard and that you are taking time out to listen to them specifically on why something is hard. I mean, people are not going to all change at once. And I think you'll have a big group of people that will change at once because they are not, maybe they don't care either way, or maybe it's easier for them. But you will have those people that are a little bit more stubborn. And I think that one-on-one approach and giving them some more time to adapt. And then at some point, if they need to adapt, that needs to be something that comes from maybe not only the operations team, but from their manager or from leadership in the way that we're changing a process.
Great. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I hope the conversation continues on LinkedIn, hashtag OpsHappy, and be sure to reach out to Adrian to answer any specific questions that we couldn't answer today. But thank you so much, Adrian. Great job. Love the presentation, and just appreciate you spending the time with us today.
All right. Thank you so much. Looking forward to hearing from everyone.
Great.